We begin today in Mirz Hashem, the fourth Perek Torah B'Kalfi, here on Daf Lamites. And early in the Mishnah, we had already discussed the Shnei Seirim and the Gorolos, which took place in the northern side of the Azara. And our Mishnah goes into detail. Torah B'Kalfi, he snatches from the Kalfi, from this box, this lottery box. And the Gemara is going to discuss why the Mishnah used the word Torah. The Hela Shnei Gorolos. And he picks up one Gorol in one lot in his right hand, one in his left hand. Echad Kosovo of Lashem, one had written on it, Lashem v'Echad Kosovo Lazazel. And now there are two people that are situated on both sides of the Kohen Gadol. Haskan B'Yamino, the Skan who will take over as Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, an event that the Kohen Gadol becomes disqualified or contracts Tumah. And Rosh Beis Av Mismolo, they were the base Bote Av of the Kohanim, and whichever base Av was in charge of the Avodah on that particular day, the 10th of Tishrei, his base Av, the head of that group, would be situated on the left of the Kohen Gadol. And we'll see what these individuals would contribute. Im shel Shem Ola B'Yamino, if everything worked out ideally, and the Kohen Gadol picked up with his right hand shel Shem, Haskan Omerlo, the Skan would declare, Ishi Kohen Gadol, my master, the Kohen Gadol, Hagbea Yamincha, raise your right hand. And that would be a great simcha. It was a great omen from Shemayim if the Gorol Lashem would come up on the right hand. Im shel Shem Ola B'Smolo, if on the other hand, the Gorol, the lot that had the name of Hashem came up in his left hand, then the Skan would declare, if Shel Shem Ola B'Smolo, and if the Kohen Gadol picks up the lot with the Shem Hashem in his left hand, then the Rosh Beis Av, who's standing to the left of the Kohen Gadol, Omerlo, he says to the Kohen Gadol, Ishi Kohen Gadol Hagbea Smolcha, lift up your left hand. So the official who is standing either to the right or to the left, depending upon which hand of the Kohen Gadol picked up, which lot was picked up by the right hand of the Kohen Gadol, that would determine which of the two individuals here would make the declaration Hagbe. And the Hagbe would always be to lift up the hand that picked up Lashem. The son of Al Shnei Seirim. And now the Kohen Gadol has to place one lot on one of the two goats, the other on the other goat. And one goat was to his right, one to his left. The Kohen Gadol would place the lot drawn by his right hand on the goat to his right, the lot drawn by his left hand on the goat standing to his left. And v'omer Lashem chatos, and the Kohen Gadol would declare when he places the lot that had the Shem Hashem on the head of one of those two goats, he would say, designate Lashem chatos. And here the Kohen Gadol would enunciate the holy name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, the way it's supposed to be enunciated. Rabbi Yishmael Omer Lo Hayu Tzarich Lomar Chatos El Lashem. All he had to say was Lashem. He didn't have to designate this goat as a chatos because the gorol itself was Makadesh. It singled out this particular goat as Lashem. The Heinon and Achra, of those who heard the Kohen Gadol enunciate the name of Hashem, would respond in tune. Baruch Shem Kvod Malchus Alil. The Gemara asks, Lama li Taraf B'Kalfi. Why did the Mishnah emphasize that he would snatch it from the box? And the Gemara answers, Ki hechi delo nechavem v'lishkol. The fear is that since the Kohen Gadol is so excited and so vested in the fact that the Gorel Hashem would show up on his right hand, because that was a Siman Litova, that he might be tempted to Kohen Gadol out of this great anticipation and anxiety to actually feel around inside the box and to be able to tell which one is Lashem and deliberately pick that one up on his right hand. And to avoid that, the Mishnah says he should snatch it. Taraf B'Kalf. Omar Rava. Rava goes along the same lines. How do we protect and avoid a situation with a Kohen Gadol, either deliberately or because of the psychological state, he's going to make sure that the Gorel Lashem shows up in his right hand, is Kalfi Shaletz Hoisa B'Shalchol Hoisa V'Eina Machzekes El Shtei Yadayim. The box, the Kalfi that had in it the lots, was very small. So there was no room for him to feel around inside to try to see if he could orchestrate it in such a way that he would definitely pick up the Lashem in his right hand. And the Kalfi, says Rabbi, was made of wood, not of silver, not of gold. We'll see why. And Shalchol Haisa. It was not sanctified as a Kli Kodesh. It was a Kli Chol. And this might reflect what we'll see at the end of today's daf, Lamentes Amid Beis, that the Gorel, the Avodas HaGorel, is not really technically an Avodah, therefore it doesn't need a Kli Sharetz. Maskif Le Ravina, raises the following objection to Rava. Bishlam, I understand why Eina Machzekes El Shtei Yadayim Ki Yehechi Dilo Lechavin V'Lishkol. We want the box to be very small so the Kohen will not be able to, as we said before, deliberately orchestrate it by maneuvering his hands inside the box to make sure that he gets the Gorel Hashem in his right hand. El Shalchol. But why do you say that the Kalfi is Shalchol? Nekadsha. Why not purchase it from the Truma Salishka, which would, by definition, generate Kedusha and Hegdesh, and the status of the Kalfi would be Hegdesh? So Rava answers in Cain, Havile Klisharis Shal Eitz. Klisharis, the Eitz law of Dina. The premise here is that the Kalfi has to be made of wood. We'll see why in a second. And we don't sanctify a wooden utensil, it's sort of like an insult to the Mikdash, to make it upgraded to the status of a Klisharis. So the Gemara immediately raises the obvious question, if you're telling me that out of awe and respect to the Beis HaMikdash, the Klisharis could not be made of a wooden material, but had to be made of some metal, so why not make the Kalfi metal, whether it's silver or gold, and then sanctify it as a Klisharis? And the Gemara answers, HaTorah chasa al mamonim shel Yisrael. Since it was not necessary for this Kli, this Kalfi, to be sanctified as a Klisharis, therefore there's no need to spend that extra money and deplete the funds of Klal Yisrael to pay for silver and gold. It doesn't have to be a Klisharis, and therefore it could be a Kli Eitz. And this is a very interesting principle that the Gemara formulates here and appears elsewhere in Shas, that we don't want to overburden financially the people of Israel. And in this particular context, we don't want to require that the Kalfi be purchased from or created with silver and gold. Now, the Ritva, I just want to point out, raises the following point. He says that according to halacha, it's a strict rule that any vessel, any kli that's purchased from the Trumas Halishka will not be sanctified unless the avodah is done at least on one occasion. You have to use the klishares, that's called avodaso mechanchaso, in order to generate the kedusha. Now, keep in mind that the hagrola is not an avodah. So how could the kalfi be a kli sharis in Ravina's kasha? So the Ritva answers that once you specify, you designate a kli for a specific avoda, even if technically that avoda is not an avoda, nevertheless it already takes on the sanctity of a kli sharis. Now, the Gemara in Sota quotes the sheet of Rebbe, which seems to be reflected here in our Gemara. Rebbe says that a kli eitz could never qualify as a kli sharis. However, the dissenting view of Rabbi Yossi is quoted in Sota, and he holds that wooden kalim can be validated as kli sharis. But our Gemara here is reflecting the sheet of Rebbe. Now, there's no requirement that the kalfi be made of silver or gold, because it doesn't have to be a kli sharis, and therefore Hashem spares us the money of spending that money for precious metals, and we make the kalfi out of wood. Now, in Vayikra Perek Yudalid, in the case of Tzaras, the Kohen will first tell the people, before he makes the final call and determination that this is a Beis HaMenuga, which requires Netitza, he will tell the people, clear out all of your kelim, empty out the house, it's going to be destroyed. So we see that HaTorah chasa al mamonom shel Yisrael. Masnisin delokei tan. The Gemara says that our Mishnah is against one of the Tanoim, the Sanya, as quoted in the Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Eliezer, Haskan v'kohen gadol machnisin yadon bekalfi. That is both the skan as a future kohen gadol, or potentially, and the kohen gadol himself, they both will put their hands, and in this case it's their right hand, into the kalfi. Each one respectively, will draw one of the two gorolos. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. And in Biyamino, if the lot that says on it Lashem comes up in the right hand Shel Kohen Gadol, then Ola and Haskan Omerlo Ishi Kohen Gadol Hagbi Mincha. So that's fine. But now, remember that the Skan also puts his right hand, according to Rabbi Yehuda, into the Kalfi. The Imbi Amino Shel Skan, Ole, if the lottery, the lot that says Lashem on it comes up in the right hand of the Skan, then Rosh Beis Av Omerlo L'Kohen Gadol, Daber Milcha Miloch. The Rosh Beis Av, who is situated on the left, will now turn to the Kohen Gadol, and will say that since the Skan was the one who picked up the Gorel Hashem, then the Rosh Beis Av will tell the Kohen Gadol to declare that this goat is Lashem. And what that means is that the Skan picked up the lot that said Lashem on it, yet it would be embarrassing to the Kohen Gadol, as Rashi and Tosfos explain, for the Skan to instruct the Kohen Gadol to raise his right hand, which has in it the lot Lazazah, because that indicates the defeat, or the instead of the triumphs, the opposite, that the Gorol Azazel is on the right side. Now, basically, it comes out that according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Kohen Gadol is going to draw one of the lots, and the Sgan is going to draw the other of the lots, both using their right hands. And that's against our mission. So the Gemara asks, V'nemole Sgan, why shouldn't the Sgan say to the Kohen Gadol, Daber Milach? Why is it the Rosh Beis Av? In other words, if the Sgan is the one who tells the Kohen Gadol, raise your right hand, in the case where the lot of Hashem came up in his right hand, why is it that it's not the Sgan who's going to instruct the Kohen Gadol and announce, raise your right hand, according to Rabbi Yehuda, but rather in an event that the lot of Lazazel shows up in the right hand of the Kohen Gadol, then it's going to be the Rosh Beis Av who's going to tell the Kohen Gadol to declare Daber Milcha L'Hashem Echad. So the Gemara says, in this scenario, according to Rabbi Yehuda's logic, since the Kohen Gadol did not come up in his right hand with the Gorol Hashem, and that, as we said before, is not a good sign. Now the Kohen Gadol has Chalishus Hadas. And if the Sgan Kohen Gadol would instruct the Kohen Gadol to raise his right hand and declare Lazazel, that would cause the Kohen Gadol distress. The Kohen Gadol might think that, it's the Sgan Kohen Gadol who's sort of like competition to the Kohen Gadol, who's happy with the fact that, the Kohen Gadol in his right hand came up with Lazazel. Now the Gemara analyzes the root, the source, the Yesod HaPlukta. Marsav, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Yemina Diskan Adif Mismola the Kohen Gadol. Better the right hand of the Skan than the left hand of the Kohen Gadol. Now let's try to explain what's going on. And there's a kind of an inner conflict here between a clash between two dinim that are pulling us in two directions. Why is it so? We know that Yom Kippur requires the avodah of the Kohen Gadol exclusively. On the other hand, we know that avodah should be done with the right hand. Now, it's impossible for the Kohen Gadol to simultaneously pick up both lots. And therefore, right, with one hand, I mean to say with his right hand. Therefore, we have two options in front of us. Either the Kohen Gadol will pick up one lot in his right hand and one lot in his left hand, and the advantage is that now the Kohen Gadol is doing this avodah. But the drawback is that now he's going to be doing the avodah not only with his right hand, but also with his left. On the other hand, if we allow this Sgan to use his right hand, although it means that to some extent the avodah of Gorolos is not being implemented exclusively by the Kohen Gadol, but on the other hand, we're using right hand and not left hand. And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is, in this toss-up, we prefer right hand, even though it means that the Sgan is going to participate in this avodah. Umar Sover, but the Tan of our Mishnah is of the opinion, ki adodinin. That is an absolute equation, shava b'shava, between the plus of the Kohen Gadol doing the avodah exclusively and the plus of the right hand being used for the avodah. Therefore, we go back to simple pshat that all the avodah should be done by the Kohen Gadol. Gemara asks, "Uman haitana de polig alei Rabbi Yehuda," and we identify the Tanakama. And the Gemara answers, "Yes, we can." Reb Chanina skan hakodim. The Sanya we learned in the Brisa. Reb Chanina skan kodim omer lama skan miyamino. Why do we locate the skan on the right side of the Kohen Gadol? Why is he remaining on the right side? And Reb Chanina answers, "She'im ira v'psul b'Kohen Gadol nichnas skan v'shamish taka." We want to make a statement, a public declaration, that the skan Kohen Gadol might just be the Kohen Gadol. We may have to invite him in from the for the bullpen to take over the game in the event that the Kohen Gadol becomes possible. Torah Rabbanon, we learned in the Brisa, Arbaim Shana. Now we start a very long Agadita that tells us about all the many miracles that took place in the Beis Hamikdash during the time of Shimon HaTzadik. And that was 40 years. Every single Yom Kippur, the Gorel that said Lashem would come up in the right hand of the Kohen Gadol, and this was a very auspicious sign. After the demise, the passing of Shimon HaTzadik, Palmim Ola B'Yamin, Palm Ola B'Smol. Yesterday it was 50-50. Number two, the second great miracle during Reb Shimon HaTzadik's period was Hayaloshon Shal Zehulis Malbin, that the crimson wool would turn white, which indicated that Hashem had atoned, accepted, and granted kapara. Mikan v'elach palmim. After this, sometimes malbin, palmim eino malbin. Next, the third great miracle, oyener maravi dolek, which means that there was a tremendous miracle in the Ner Maravi. Exactly where the Ner Maravi is located is a complex machlokes at the end of Masechet Menachos. But be that as it may, we know it's in the Heichal, and there were 7 candles, and they kindled it every evening. They put an equal volume of shemen in each one of the neros, and yet, miraculously, it was the Ner HaMaravi that remained lit after all the others had gone out. And to add to the Pella here, the Ner Maravi was actually the first Ner to be kindled. And it was the last Ner to be cleaned through Atova and replenished the next morning. And yet, this amazing miracle took place. After the death of Shimon HaTzadik, is Pa'amim Doleg, Pa'amim Kava. Sometimes it was lit, sometimes it would go out. Another miracle. During Shimon HaTzadik's reign, his 40 years, they would put enough wood on the Eish, on the Maracha, in the morning, and it would last for the entire day. They would never have to bring extra wood. There's a mitzvah unto itself to bring these blocks of wood and set them up on the altar, on the Mizbeach, every afternoon. This was Gemara we had on Daf Chavav and Beis, and therefore this was the obligation that had to be fulfilled. But Mikam V'Yel Kol Mizgaber Kol She'ena Mizgaber. The Kohanim, therefore, would have to make sure that there was enough wood on the Maracha for the entire day. Next, there was a great bracha that even if the Kohanim got very small portions of the Omer Shtei Lechem Lechem Aponim, nevertheless, they were satiated. B'chol Kohen shemagia kizayis, and every Kohen got a kizayis worth of those. And And that's what, V'yesh ochlo v'savea, v'yesh ochlo umosir. Wow, one kizayas of lechem, and some of them couldn't even take it all in. They were so satiated by this great miracle. But after the death of Shimon HaTzadik, Nishtalcha Me'era, there was a curse, B'yomer Shte'elech L'chaponim, B'chol Kohen Magia Kipul. The size that the coin, the volume that the coin would reach, would receive, was that of a bead. Hatznuim Oshkem Yisrael, the pious ones realized that, you know what, we're getting such a small amount. We're not going to be fulfilling the mitzvah of Achilas Kazayas Kodshim anyway. We might as well give it up and let someone else enjoy it. Agargaronim, those who are on the other extreme, that were aggressively interested in eating from the lechem, no tlu b'yochlan, they would grab it away from other people. Ma'aseh b'echad shenotal elko v'chelik chavera. He actually stole his friend's portion, another Kohen's portion. Vayukarin also ben chamtzon ad yom mosa. And here we will take a break and we'll pick it up on Lamed Tes Amud Beis and try to understand that phrase ben chamtzon and where it